I heard an allegory recently on how energy and money coincide. After all, energy is essentially the currency through which biological life sustains itself. In our modern financial world, that allegory is more realistic than I think most of us realize. We do such transactions every day, whether we use our money as a claim on the energy and effort of another, or whether we are compensated for our own energy with a paycheck. I think that this allegory can help us understand the unique challenges of our own financial environment, particularly the ways in which capitalism may seem a bit shaky, but is ultimately the best course of action when running an economy. Many will say that capitalistic corporations are greedy and that they are exploiting the worker and the consumer. This is true in many respects, but false in many more. The reverse is also true, that capitalism has been the greatest engine for positive social and societal change in centuries. The problem is not with capitalism, but with profit. The goal of a corporation is the same as the goal of a biological life form, to capture as much profit as possible. For the corporations, this is financial profit, money from revenue in excess of the costs it took to generate. For life, it is energy profit, enough to sustain the function of life as well as create more, reproducing to continue collecting energy. This is one of the basic tenets required for biological life, to capture more energy than was spent acquiring it. However, because life obtains this energy from a variety of sources, not all of them are conducive to other life in its ecosystem. We can see the difference in grasses and algae. Grasses get their energy from the sun, but are eaten by herbivores, which are eaten by carnivores. At each stage, there are wider benefits to the ecosystem, which allows for additional life to thrive. Algae, on the other hand, often takes all the energy in an ecosystem for itself. A small amount can quickly grow to such a degree that other species in its environment struggle or fail to survive, simply because the energy they use to capture is missing due to intervention by the algae at the bottom of the food chain. From this example, we can identify the difference of creating energy versus transferring energy. Grass does not necessarily create energy, but it creates a usable energy for the herbivores that eat it. Algae, by contrast, merely transfers the available energy to itself, leading to a decrease in the available energy for other life. Energy and profit are comparable in this regard. Most people mistake profit as the problem. It's not. Profit, like energy, is the only mechanism through which excess can be made, and therefore an extension of life or production of new life. However, there is a distinction in profit. Good profit is that which produces more than it consumes in all outward effects. Bad profit is that which takes more away in consumption than it produces in outward effects. To the outsider, this is seen but not always understood. Good profit, by secondary effects, helps to create more abundance, like creating more available energy. An example would be a product like a home appliance. Say a man purchases this home appliance so that way he can save an hour of time per day. This slight unburdening lets the man have an additional hour to use however he wishes, which he uses to get an additional hour of sleep. That extra hour of sleep lets him be more energized at the end of the workday when he spends time with family. The man's son, now able to engage meaningfully with his father, he eventually grows and uses the lessons and memories he gained while engaging with his father to create a new product, a home appliance that allows him to save 2 hours of time per day. These secondary effects are positive and a result of the production of the original appliance. Thus, the profit gained by the company from selling this product is good, as it was obtained from the production of more positive effects than negative ones, and increases the available energy for others. Bad profit is still in excess beyond what has been consumed to create it. However, it has more negative secondary effects which propagate. Oftentimes, bad profit can appear to be good profit in a narrow field of view, but when the circle of observation is expanded, the negative effects can be seen. An example of this sort of profit would be a subscription service, which, in the pursuit of more profit, begins including advertisements in previously ad-free tiers and making the full ad-free version more expensive. In the narrow view, the company's profits will rise, workers will get pay raises or bonuses, but in the wide view, thousands of customers have seen a degradation in the quality of the product they paid for, or have to pay more for the same quality they used to enjoy. The example does not necessarily mean that subscriptions themselves are an example of bad profit, as they can be an example of good profit by offering lower upfront costs to customers for services that can be quite expensive from their initialization. The bad profit comes from seeking gain for the sake of gain. In an oft-quoted phrase from Edward Abbey, growth for the sake of growth is the ideology of a cancer cell. More profit without actually producing more abundance, like transferring energy instead of creating it. Only in this scenario, they are transferring the money from you to them. This comes to a head with a moral and philosophical point. You can have more by producing more, or by reducing the availability of others to capitalize on what they can access. Making more products, making a higher quality of product, or expanding the scope of a service can give you more. However, having more by sacrificing something will result in fewer products of lower quality and narrowed service. In a sense, good profit comes from producing more value to obtain more money, while bad profit comes from producing more money without producing more value. An idea in Austrian economics is that energy buys time, and that time has monetary value. Because of this, we can also assume that money purchases time. While this might not be true in the most literal interpretation like seen in science fiction, it is true in the way ordinary people operate economically. People who are poor have lots of time on their hands, but no money, so they trade that time through employment for money. The inverse is often true of rich people as well. They will trade their wealth in order to get back more of their time, whether this be in the form of faster methods of travel, services from the labor of others, or medical procedures intended to retain some of their youthly allure. As an aside, this is also why information is valuable, because it requires both time and energy to create. Part of the reason this value for time concept is important is because time is the only true scarce resource. You can always buy more land, find more talented individuals, and spare any expense to acquire any physical commodity. The only thing that cannot be altered in its scarcity is time. We are always limited in what we will have, and we never know how much of it we do. Through this comparison, we can also see the importance that good and bad profit have on time. Good profit is that which is gained through creating an abundance of available time, while bad profit is that which diminishes the available time of the customer. This is not to say that paying for something that you will spend time on is bad profit, as that is a voluntary transaction. We can use our examples from earlier to understand the issue better. In the first example of good profit, where a home appliance was produced, we see an abundance of energy and time produced as a result of the production of the appliance. However, in the second example of the poor subscription service, we see how time and energy is wasted. The time and energy of the customer is diminished by new advertisements in their previously ad-free tier. They must also use more of their time and energy in order to generate the money they need to upgrade to the more expensive, newer ad-free tier. To simplify and summarize my main points, the most common concerns and complaints about the modern capitalist economic system are not an issue with capitalism itself, but with profit. There is good profit generated from production that leads to an abundance of time and energy from the customer. There is also bad profit, which is generated not from an abundance of time and energy, but rather by reducing the time and energy of the customer and pocketing the economic difference as a fiscal reward. Ostensibly, we are now faced with a conundrum of what to do about the issue. At least the answer is relatively simple. Only economic pressures will be able to reorient the corporations from pursuing the ease of bad profit to the socially beneficial good profits. Purchase products from companies that generate good profits, and avoid companies that waste your time and energy economically. Instead of choosing a service that has a history of choosing the easy path of bad profits, move your business to one that will produce an abundance of time and energy in your life. Economics is partially a study of human action, and there are reasons that our modern economic system is set up in a profit-oriented manner as a capitalist, abundance-producing system is designed to incentivize the creation of new things. Physics and biology provide a framework for life on Earth, and there is no reason that those same principles cannot be co-opted as an allegory and example for our economic system as well. It is by a greater understanding of the world that we can gain a greater understanding of ourselves, because we were designed in the world. Just because ecology and economics are separate ideas of study does not mean they won't teach similar lessons. If you disagree with any of these ideas, you're welcome to leave your comments in the comment section below. I want to give a shout out and special thanks to Art of the Problem, who had a wonderful video explaining some of the ideas. I decided to expound upon it with some Austrian economic theory. But if you would like to see the original video, I've left it in the description box below. Of course, that's all I have for you today, so goodbye and God bless.